Graffiti. Writings or drawings scribbled, scratched, or sprayed illicitly on a wall or other surface in a public place. Graffiti is more than just some drawings scribbled on a wall. It's a form of art, a way for people to express their opinions, their feelings, or just let their minds be mapped out into whatever they want to create. St. Louis has a complicated past with graffiti, which most prominently happened right here at this wall, so let's get into its history. In 1844, a massive flood hit the lower basin of the Mississippi River, which included St. Louis. The flood reached record-breaking heights of 41 feet. This displaced many residents and destroyed lots of infrastructure. The flood wall was built in 1964 to prevent events like this from happening again. While this flood wall protected the residents of St. Louis from flood damage, it created a new problem. It was a huge eyesore. Little did they know this problem would soon be fixed. In the mid-1990s, when hip-hop was a big part of St. Louis culture, a group of DJers, breakdancers, rappers, and most importantly graffiti artists began hanging out at the downtown flood wall. Leading them was John Harrington and Jonah Anderson. In 1997, this gathering became known as Graffiti Jam and later formally renamed to Paint Louis. Through the early 2000s, there was a lot of commotion over the flood wall because the event grew so large that artists began spray painting outside the wall and all over the city of St. Louis. The flood wall is a magnificent sight to see, but only for those who can find it or are willing to go. The flood wall is nestled between the Mississippi River and St. Louis's industrial district, making it difficult to access as well as dangerous to go to. There are many abandoned buildings and reports of violence both day and night. While I was filming, I even had to help a lady call the cops and avoid a guy with rusty metal nunchucks. So, is the graffiti wall worth going to see? And is graffiti art or vandalism? To find out, I asked some experts to help me find the answers.
My name is Manny Kleinberg. I'm one of the art faculty here at Sluh High, specializing in drawing, printmaking, design, and painting.
My name is Sarah Rebholz, and I am a teacher in the Fine Arts Department here at Sluh. I teach mostly ceramics classes.
My name is Joan Bugnitz. I'm a studio arts teacher here.
Hi, my name is Leo Hahn. I'm a junior and an artist here at Sluh.
Yes, the answer to that is yes, because there's so many public spaces that are just banal and gray and needing some brightening that could be really great spaces for public art, and a lot of those places do get picked for public art. There's so many local artists that go through the Pulitzer Foundation or something that will like sponsor that kind of stuff, and you get these, man, just such really good public art pieces. Shababi Bayak is so cool, and he's all over the place. His name's Pete Waller. He was really famous in the 90s because he won like a graffiti contest through Mountain Dew. It was on like one of the Mountain Dew cans. He's done all kinds of awesome stuff, and he's turned what was for him, I think, a graffiti lifestyle, legal, illegal, whatever, into a real art form. Like that's his bread and butter. That's what he does. That's really cool. That being said, I also worked in Old North St. Louis for a long time, and part of living in that neighborhood meant that you would probably come to work the next day with something vandalized. As a business owner, I've seen people that then have to call the city to help get that stuff taken care of, or they have to take care of the cost themselves, and they're just a small business. They don't have the funds for that kind of thing or time.
If you're going to put your mark on something, don't put your mark on something that someone else has made. And that's the tricky thing about it, because You think about buildings in the city that have been designed by architects and have been built by people who have really gone to great lengths to think about what this is going to look like and how it's going to integrate into that space. And then to have someone come along and, put their mark essentially over it, I guess there's the question of, is that right? Is that okay?
I do like street art. I like murals. I like the results of a lot of them, but I also like just the spirit behind a lot of them. Sometimes it's done when an area is sort of being rejuvenated. I don't like when people do something to somebody else's property or somebody else has to clean it up or like that. But when it's something for the community, I think it's good.
That's why your dance is really nice.
I think graffiti in St. Louis has a really big impact on kind of like the artistic culture of the city. For a Midwest city that I feel like a lot of times people think has no culture, I think graffiti is a great way to kind of express the hearts and minds of the people here in a way that like there kind of really isn't any other outlet for.
Well, that's the cool use of it, and I feel like after the bombings of Palestine, after George Floyd, certainly after the riots with Michael Brown, I mean, there was part of a need for people to voice their concerns.
I have done street art before. The weekend after the serious rioting in Ferguson. I live up north, and Ferguson is at the time where the bulk of the protesting and the destruction took place is where the Northern Arts Council was, and it was damaged. It was all North County artists, high school professors, high school teachers, independent artists. There's a lot of artists in the North County area. So after the rioting and after there was a lot of destruction to the storefronts, and we worked to paint and support the shop owners, independent small business owners in the downtown of Ferguson the week after riots. It wouldn't be graffiti, but it was certainly grassroots, and it had a message, and it was really for the community and for ourselves to just get them to do something that was really hard.
Now, when it comes to street art, I think, what's happening around St. Louis, what's been happening in recent years is amazing. You drive down or walk down Manchester in the Grove from Kings Highway to Vandevenner, and you just see all these cool murals and, even smaller paintings that start emerging on the sides or on the fronts of buildings. And it just points to kind of this like vibrant, growing, lively part of the city or the neighborhood.
And they're so awesome, huge and bold, and they're bringing all this color to the neighborhood.
What was interesting is a whole wave of people from outside the community came in, and they had a portfolio of designs they were looking at to put on these boards. They had messages of, it was all peace and diversity, and I don't know, it just said to me, people love doing this, and let's go to Ferguson and do it.
All in all, graffiti has a lot of upsides and downsides here in St. Louis. While it can be seen as vandalism, covering architects' works of art, and making small businesses look trashy, it adds so much creativity, vibrance, and interest to lacking neighborhoods. It creates a sense of community within separated areas, and most importantly, it gives a platform to the oppressed so that their message can be seen instead of being ignored.